Have you ever caught someone talking to themselves and instantly wondered if something was wrong? Most people do. They laugh, they judge, they make assumptions. But what if psychology says the opposite? What if one of the most misunderstood habits in the world is actually connected to mental clarity, emotional control, creativity, and high-level thinking? Today, you are about to discover why some of the most successful, creative, and resilient people in history regularly talk to themselves, and why this habit may reveal far more about intelligence than most people realize. Stay with me, because the final story completely changed how psychologists think about self-talk. Years ago, on the tennis courts of New York, spectators noticed something unusual about a young athlete. He constantly talked to himself, not occasionally, constantly. Between points, after mistakes, before difficult serves, during moments of pressure. That athlete was Arthur Ashe. Many people remember Arthur Ashe as one of the greatest tennis players in history. What fewer people know is that sports psychologists later became fascinated by his habit of verbal self-guidance. When Ashe faced pressure, he often spoke instructions out loud. Stay focused. Watch the ball. 1 point at a time. To outsiders, it looked strange. To his brain, it was a performance tool. Researchers would later discover that verbal self-instruction helps reduce mental clutter. Instead of allowing dozens of competing thoughts to fight for attention, the mind receives a simple, direct command. The result? Greater focus, better decision-making, more control under pressure. Arthur Ashe understood something decades before many psychologists fully appreciated it. Sometimes the fastest way to organize the mind is to hear your own thoughts. And this reveals something fascinating. People who talk to themselves are often not losing control of their thoughts. They are actively managing them. Psychologists call this verbal self-regulation. The brain essentially becomes both speaker and listener. One part generates information. Another evaluates it. A third acts upon it. Instead of a chaotic internal storm, the person creates a structured mental conversation. And that brings us to another remarkable story. In the 1960s, a young engineer named Richard Feynman was becoming famous for something unusual. His intelligence was extraordinary, but colleagues often noticed him walking alone while speaking to himself. Sometimes he would ask himself questions, then answer them, then challenge his own answer, then argue against it. It looked almost like a debate. The difference was that both sides belonged to Richard Feynman. Years later, students who studied his methods discovered that he frequently used spoken reasoning to solve complex problems. He would break ideas into simple language, explain concepts aloud, challenge assumptions, search for flaws, then rebuild his understanding from the ground up. This is closely connected to something psychologists call metacognition. Thinking about thinking. The ability to step outside your own mind and observe how it works. Most people experience thoughts. Highly self-aware people examine them, they question them, and refine them, test them. Talking aloud creates a unique advantage. Thoughts that remain inside the head can feel vague. The moment they become words, weaknesses become visible. Confusion becomes obvious. Solutions become easier to identify. Feynman wasn't talking to himself because he lacked intelligence. He was talking to himself because he was using intelligence at an exceptionally high level. And this brings us to an aspect of self-talk that affects nearly every person watching this video. Emotional regulation. Many people believe emotional strength means never feeling fear, never feeling anxiety, never feeling sadness. Psychology shows something different. True emotional strength is often the ability to guide yourself through those emotions. Few stories demonstrate this better than that of Captain Chesley Sullenberger. In January 2009, U.S. Airways Flight 1549 struck a flock of birds shortly after takeoff. Both engines failed. Hundreds of lives were suddenly at risk. Inside the cockpit, every second mattered. Recordings and investigations later revealed something important. Sullenberger and his crew maintained constant verbal guidance. They spoke through procedures, confirmed information, directed attention, controlled panic. This wasn't random conversation. It was structured self-talk under extreme pressure. Psychologists who study crisis performance often point out that language can act as an anchor for the brain. When fear rises, verbal direction creates order. When chaos appears, words create structure. When emotions threaten to overwhelm judgment, self-guidance helps restore control. This same principle operates in everyday life. A student facing an exam, a parent dealing with stress, an entrepreneur confronting uncertainty, a person struggling with anxiety. The simple act of calmly speaking to oneself can reduce emotional overload and improve self-control. And now we arrive at perhaps the most surprising insight of all. Many people who talk to themselves are not simply processing words. They are building mental worlds. Psychologists studying creativity have discovered that highly creative individuals often combine visual imagery with verbal dialogue. They describe possibilities, rehearse scenarios, talk through plans, narrate solutions. Their brains are using multiple systems at once: language, visualization, memory, problem solving. This process is sometimes linked to what researchers call dual coding. Information becomes stronger when words and mental images work together. That may explain why inventors, artists, athletes, scientists, and entrepreneurs have often been observed speaking aloud while working through challenges. They are not merely thinking. They are constructing reality inside the mind before bringing it into the world. So the next time you notice someone talking to themselves, pause before making assumptions. You may be witnessing concentration rather than confusion, self-awareness rather than instability, emotional intelligence rather than weakness. What many people dismiss as strange may actually be one of the mind's most powerful tools: the ability to guide yourself, challenge yourself, calm yourself, motivate yourself, and understand yourself. Because in the end, the most important conversation any person will ever have is the one that happens inside their own mind. And sometimes, the people brave enough to speak that conversation out loud are the ones who understand themselves best. Now I'd love to hear from you. Do you ever talk to yourself when you're thinking through a problem, managing stress, or trying to stay focused? And has it ever helped you find a solution that surprised you? Share your experience in the comments below. Before you leave, it's not anger that makes people walk away. It's awakening. When clarity arrives, everything changes. Now playing, they don't leave angry, they leave awake. The psychology nobody talks about. Don't forget to like and subscribe.